Crazy things that my pastor stepdad did, and a hair tutorial. It's your lucky day. Now pay attention. We curl the bangs in towards my face and then we pin them up. Next, we're gonna do this first piece also towards the face. Okay, my mom met my stepdad when she was 14 years old and she was a foster kid. He was her foster brother and he was 22, 23, and she was 14. Curl towards your face, then away from your face, pin it up, and continue that pattern. So we're gonna call this man Arson for legal reasons, and that name will be obvious as to why I chose it later in the story. So they started an inappropriate relationship when she was only 14 and he was in his 20s and he was her older foster brother. But then he moved away to Tennessee to pursue music, and my mom stayed obviously in town. She was a child, but she grows up, gets married, has a couple kids, me, one of them, hi, and then she gets divorced. And guess who comes crawling back? If you guessed her foster brother Arson, you are correct. I met him when I was 7. The relationship moved very fast. We moved in with him within like 3 months. Starting on the other side, we're gonna do the same thing. Curl in towards your face. The next one will go away. Now, Arson was a pastor and a musician. He played at all the churches. And our first house that we lived in with him burnt down. And it wasn't until years later I found out that he was the one who burnt the house down with his own dog inside of it and our pet turtle. But before he did this, a few months prior, we had a pet chihuahua that just went missing. He ended up telling us that he gave it to the Amish neighbors, and we believed that for a long time until we got older and we found out what really happened is that he was sick of this chihuahua. He thought it was annoying, so he bopped it on the head and he threw it in our basement wood burner while it was alive. Now, abuse with animals was very common with this guy, clearly. We had birds growing up. He would abuse the birds. I talked in the last video about a bird with a black eye. It was disgusting. And while all this is going on, he's like the most charismatic guy in the church. Everybody loves Arson. Now, because his job was in the church, we would move and we'd go to a new church, and then an allegation would come up and then we would have to leave. And at one point we were living in an abandoned church, so shortly after the house fire, because we had nowhere to stay. We lived in a hotel for a little while. We lived in free housing provided by the church. And then the 17-year-old neighbor girl came forward and we had to leave. As we got older, like teenage years, the abuse got worse and he got even crazier. He got more bold. My first boyfriend ever came to the house and he called him an N-word to his face. So anytime we had black friends over, we had to literally hide them from him. Now, Arson was also very strict with us in our teenage years. Like, you know, obviously no drinking, no smoking, no drugs, whatever. Of course, that's pretty baseline stuff. Until one night he had a gig in Caseville, and me and my good friend, we were teenagers, we went with him to watch this gig because it was in Caseville and that's gonna be fun. We hang out on the beach. So his set gets over late, right? And we're driving home and he says, "Hey, do you guys want to get drunk with me?" And I'm immediately like, what is happening right now? Like, I'm terrified of this man. Also, he's been very strict my whole life. He's very crazy. Like, there's no way he's being serious right now. This is a trick. He was dead serious. We stopped at a liquor store. It was closed. He drove to the nearest bar and he bought a 6-pack from the bar, and he put my friend, my teenage friend, in the front seat with him and made me sit in the back seat while we all drank and drove home. He made me promise never to tell my mom that, and I didn't because I was terrified and I thought I did something wrong. And then I grew up and realized it was just a P3DO being a P3DO. Now, the last time I saw Arson, I think I was like 23, and he showed up at one of the tattoo shops that I was working at the time and got into a physical altercation with one of my coworkers, and the police had to be called on him. But he did leave me a note, and it was the most gaslit, crazy, nonsensical note I've ever read in my life, and I set it on fire. I wish I would have kept it because I'd read it to you guys. Obviously, I jumped around a lot to some of the major events, but there was so much more, okay? But you know what? The best thing about this is he had 2 daughters that I absolutely love. Like, they're still my sisters to this day. This story time is dark. I apologize. You always ask me how I get my bangs so big. This is how I get my bangs so big. That was a little much. That powder makes them huge. Now, I did get some retribution to Arson because when he came to my tattoo shop that one day, we recorded it, put it on YouTube, and sent it to his entire congregation. He had to move. He's still a pastor, just not here anymore. Powder them, backcomb them, and then just force them into submission. And it's like scary to talk about this kind of shit on the internet because obviously it's public and anybody can see it. But like, this shit happened. And I talk about it with like my close friends and stuff. But now you're my close friend. I'm your boyfriend, remember? Don't worry, I'm in therapy, of course. But if you have like a crazy childhood like I did, like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, okay? It gave us personality and trauma and expensive therapy sessions, but you're not alone, okay? trauma bonded now. Thanks for watching.